I'm Susan Ng. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, have you had those moments where you walk into a room and then say to yourself, what did I come in here for? Or you start eating something and you realize, oops, actually this was for my son. I shouldn't have eaten it. And have we even started eating something and before we know it, we finished that food and then suddenly we have an empty box in our hand and we didn't know where the food went. Do these things happen to us? I know they happen to me all the time, and I'm not really aware nor paying attention sometimes to what I'm doing. And sometimes this translates to what I'm saying. And I could have said something and someone said, so what did you say or read earlier? I'm like, I don't remember. Do we parent like that sometimes? Do we talk to our kids and wonder, what did we just say? Or what did I give permission to? Should I take it back or should I not? Mindfulness is what we want to talk about, and this is a term that more and more I'm beginning to hear. And someone actually did say to me one time that I wasn't paying attention. I'm not really here when I'm doing things. So is this what's happening to us when we don't know what's happening to us? And to talk to us about this is Pamposh Da, and Pamposh is founder of Teratai, and she has spent many years researching and teaching mindfulness, not just to adults, but to children as well. Pamposh, welcome to Parenting Made Easy.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Very happy to have you here. And those of you who are regular listeners of A Slice of Life Hour will remember that Eugene had a conversation with Pamposh some time ago. And my other guest today is Muriel Valerie Guillaume. And Muriel is a mother of 3 boys, 9, 13, and 15. Welcome.
Thank you. Very excited to be here too.
Very excited to have you here, to have you share with us what you've learned from Pamposh about mindfulness and your children too. So that's what we want to talk about today, to be mindful. So let's start at the beginning by asking Pamposh to explain to us what mindfulness is.
As I see it, there are 2 aspects to this. There is mindful living with attention, with awareness. As you mentioned, sometimes you're not really there. So mindfulness is the opposite of that. When you're fully present to any situation, aware of what you're doing and your own surroundings, making choices with full awareness. So that's mindful living. And the other aspect is mindfulness practice, which is simply practices that help you to become a more focused person. The way I teach mindfulness practices, they're usually focused on the breath, just being aware of your own breathing. And I think this is a wonderful exercise because we all breathe throughout our lives and we hardly ever pay any attention to it, which is fine normally. But once in a while we stop and we really turn our attention inwards to this very basic function of living.
Yes.
And that brings the ability to focus. It brings focus. It also brings calmness, which I think is also very important to living mindfully, so that you are not buffeted around by your emotions all the time.
Yes, and breathing and then paying attention to breath. You're right, it's something we don't do often enough. And when we get angry, you realize people always tell us,
Yes.
take a deep breath.
Exactly.
And then you wonder, why? And then they say count 2, whatever it is, 3 or 10 or 20. So being focused on our breaths will help us center our attention and focus better.
Yes, absolutely. And it brings calmness, as I said. This is why we say take a deep breath when you're angry, because when you're angry or upset in any way, your breathing actually becomes more shallow and more quick. So next time if you feel angry sometime, just observe yourself. It happens to all of us. So we counter that by deliberately breathing slowly and deeply and focusing on the breath.
Right. And would that be perhaps step 1 for parents to parent more mindfully?
Yes, if they want to set a good example to their children, but even more if they want to become mindful themselves before they ask their children to be mindful. I think that would be a very good step. But I think also in more general, all of us live very scattered lives these days, I feel. Our attention is always divided. If nothing else, the phone is always liable to beep with a message or a call or anything, Facebook, something or the other. So it does take away attention from whatever else you might be doing. And your children are watching you. And this is a very well-established fact that children learn from what you do much more than from what you say to them. So we lecture them and we say, you should be more mindful, but they see us being unmindful, and that doesn't help.
Yes, we have too many things happening at any one time. And I have to confess, as I was walking Pamposh and Muriel across the parking lot from reception into the studio, I was actually focused on my phone and answering emails. And as I told them, I answered 2 emails before I hit the studio. So I was quite pleased about that. But of course, I didn't know who walked past me or anything. So we do need to pay attention to our lives and center ourselves. And you're right, we have so many things happening, and so do our children. Perhaps for our children even more.
Yes.
And as I told a colleague, I was going to interview the both of you today, and I said, I make sure nowadays when I'm asleep to put my phone on silent. I switch off the ringer of my phone. And she says, oh, you know what, I've recently begun to do this. She puts her phone on do not disturb mode from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow, that's
And
great.
doesn't matter who emails, WhatsApp, texts, and things like that. She doesn't pick them up because she too has trouble sleeping as I have, which is why I've turned my phone to silent. Otherwise, every ding.
Yes,
And I feel I have to wake up and read it,
Yes.
right? But actually, we don't have to. Sometimes it's a nothing mail or it's junk mail. Now, Muriel, you have 3 young boys at home.
I do, yes.
Can't be easy, yeah?
No,
To focus
not
your
every day.
attention for them.
I think that's the reason why I turned to awareness and to Pamposh as well. I needed to find peace as well in my life because I'm driving all over the place for my boys, and I'm in the car just getting stressed and not listening to them, and then I wait and then I pick up another one and I do the homework with one, and then it's just I couldn't take it anymore. So for me, I could also see that the time I was spending with my kids, which is, let's face it, very little because then they grow up and they go, was not quality time. And I really wanted to enjoy that moment with them. So I needed to be focused and I needed to be mindful. And through that, I realized that maybe my children would benefit as well from it. So I started with my second son because he had these emotions were a little bit all over the place. And I thought that if he could be mindful about it, he would manage them much better. And obviously, I had to do that first for him to understand it. And that's what he does. And I am very grateful, actually, for the results that I can see. Yesterday, when he came out from Pamposh place, he was very calm and we talked. And now he can figure out his emotions. He can put the right word on his emotions. And he's not overwhelmed by them anymore. And he enjoys as well practicing breathing. And I can see that he's happier. And therefore, everybody is happier.
Yeah, everyone around him is
Yeah,
happier.
exactly.
Because sometimes when you're not able to manage your emotions, it's the people around you who suffer for it,
Yes.
not that person. So you found that your son is now better able to manage his emotions,
Yes. he
manage
is.
himself,
Yeah.
and it started from something as simple as focusing on his breathing
Yes.
and taking a step back. As you said,
Exactly.
for parents, sometimes we need to take a step back. So for kids, it's the same thing for him?
Yes, exactly. He can do that. And he has the awareness of him getting a little bit unsettled, I would say. First, he has the awareness. And if he doesn't feel it fully, sometimes I can also remind him. Then he's aware, he becomes more aware, and he will have the tool to deal with it, which is exactly what, the reason why I wanted Pamposh to see him, so that he had the tools to deal with it.
So having the right tools to deal with your emotions and to be aware of yourself and the people around you and your surroundings is very important, not just for parents, but for kids as well. And we'll talk more with Pamposh on this when Parenting Made Easy continues.
Create Live.
Sometimes not as easy as we would like it to be, because we are so busy, and amidst our busyness, we forget that we're also parent, we're a sister, we're a brother, we're a wife, we're a husband, we're a friend, we're so many things to so many people that sometimes you feel as if you're being pulled in many directions. And Muriel, you have 3 sons at home. So those 3 ways you're being pulled, as you said earlier, you're spending your time just driving people around and picking people up. And when they're talking to you, you're not really paying attention. So now that you know what it means to be mindful and you have the techniques to do that, do you find that you're a happier mom?
I am much happier. I can deal with things with ease. I think that the main part for me was I don't feel anxious like I was feeling. I had this constant anxiety of being there on time, make sure that the children, had done their homework. And it was just a constant thing, make your parents happy, like you said, because you're a daughter, make your children happy because you're a mother, make your husband happy because you're a wife. And actually, you forget a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
And it's a bit like in the plane, no? You have to put the mask on your face before, and so that you are able to put the mask on your children's face after.
Yes, yes.
And for me, that was really like this, and I feel so much better. So
It makes for happier kids
yes,
too, right?
yeah, I think that sometimes you get yourself into situations only because you were not aware of what was going on, and it's a shame.
It is a shame because, as you say, our children are young only once. And when they grow up and out is when perhaps we'll miss them so much. And we say this to ourselves all the time. If only we had done it different. I wish I had spent yesterday a little bit different. So is this the way to go, Pampush, for parents to really have a think about being aware of themselves and their children and making time for them and focusing on the time they have together, which is really what it's about?
Absolutely. And I think everything starts with awareness. So, multitasking is a way of life for most of us now. We
tell
can't
us
really
about
avoid
it.
Yes. But do it with awareness and realize what the important things are where you really need to focus. So you will not be able to go through life focusing on a single thing all the time, but at least choose the things that are really important. So I think one thing that is very important is really listening to your children, especially when they're very young. And I've come across this in my counseling practice as well, that children don't always tell you things directly if something is bothering them. So be there for them, listen to them. Don't be answering emails or text messages while you're listening to your child.
Yeah, guilty as
choose.
charged, yes.
It's not about judging people. I know how difficult it is to be a parent in today's world. But it's just about making choices, knowing what your priorities are. And everybody decides that for themselves. Everybody finds the right balance for themselves. But they can only choose once they're aware that there is something to choose. What is the right balance for me? Where do I put my focus? But definitely if you're going to be more focused, more aware, if you have better communication in the home, everyone, not just kids, husband and wife as well, then that makes life easier, happier, simpler.
Yes.
And again, I go back to what I said before. A lot of things become easier when we are calm. It's easier to choose wisely when we are calm.
So that's a 4-letter word that is very important when we're parenting.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, staying calm before we love them. Or love them and be calm at the same time.
To both, yes. That much multitasking is allowed.
Yes. But sometimes you're right. The busyness of life takes over, as with you, Muriel. The busyness of your life takes over. And the busyness of your children's lives have taken you over.
Exactly, and that's when the anxiety comes up again, and you don't spend quality time with your children anymore. So focus is actually, it's true. For example, I'd rather say, if they need to talk to me, I'd rather say, can it wait? Let me finish this, and then you have my entire attention. If it can't wait, I will definitely stop what I'm doing. But they, as well, because of this awareness, they manage to know if it's urgent or not. Children, everything is urgent for them, right? But with that, they understand. They really do. And I think that it helps you to go through your life smoothly. And as well, you actually enjoy the ordinary. You enjoy eating with your children. You enjoy even doing the homework with your children. You know, if you stay calm, they stay calm. Very often they get upset because they are worried they can't do, or they're worried that they can't play or things like this. Instead, they know that they have this time for the homework and they understand it, and you stay calm, they stay calm. And it goes both ways, actually. Sometimes they stay calm and therefore you stay calm.
Yes.
You see?
So the role modeling is both ways.
It goes both ways. When the children, they look at you and you get a little bit annoyed with something, and they look at you and they still smile nicely, you think, yeah, I should actually smile nicely at them as well. But of course, telling them what I did not appreciate. But I can also, you can be stern, but you can also be nice. I think they really do appreciate that, and they understand much better. They don't get confused by emotions.
And that's an important point, yeah, Pamposh?
Yes.
It's not about being nice all the time.
No.
It's not about giving in all the time. You still need your rules, as you would have rules in your family with your children. You still need the rules. You still
Absolutely.
need the kids to be mindful of the boundaries that they have been
Absolutely.
set.
I think you don't have to forget your parenting role. So
Yes.
and most children actually appreciate a little bit of structure, some boundaries. They work better with those. And sometimes you do need to correct your child. So it's not about just being a friend all the time, just being nice, but being nice in the sense of just speaking calmly. You can correct a child in anger, or you can correct a child calmly, and the impact will be very different of the two approaches. So yes, definitely you need to correct children, you need to guide children. That's your role as a parent. You can't give up on that. But do it calmly. And again, I come back to that word.
Yes.
But acting in anger is different from acting calmly out of what you think is the right way to go.
And that's absolutely right. It's
Yeah.
not what we say most of the time. It's
how,
how we
yes.
say it and how the words come out.
Absolutely.
And if they're calming and they make sense and they appeal to the children, and all kids will decide what they hear is something that they need to act on or not. And if we
Yes.
start screaming and yelling, then I suppose that would also affect our relationship
Yes.
with our children. So stay calm and carry on.
Okay, thank you. I will.
When we come back, though, I'd like to find out more about some of the tools that you mentioned that we can use. And they could be something as simple as taking up a sport, as Muriel has gotten her children to do. And it could be as something as being focused on one's breath as we take the next one. And so I'm speaking today with Pamposh Da, who is founder of Terra Thai, and Muriel Valerie Guillaume, who is mother of 3 boys, who has taken up mindfulness training with Pamposh. You're on Parenting Made Easy. We'll be back in half an hour. In the meantime, we want you to stay calm, take a deep breath, and join us again. I'm Susan Ng. Thanks for staying with us.
Parenting Made Easy on 938 Live.